Okay, so today we're going to tackle something that I know a lot of you are struggling with, and that is needing a video content.
Right.
And not having the time
Yep.
to create it.
For sure.
And so we're going to dive into Haygen,
Okay.
which is an AI-powered platform that's going to change the game
Yeah, I'm really excited to dig into this one.
for creating video content.
Absolutely.
So think about it.
Yeah.
No more cameras.
Right.
No more actors.
Yep.
No more locations. No more editing software.
Yeah.
And no more big budgets.
Exactly. It really kind of streamlines and simplifies that entire process.
So with that in mind,
Yeah.
in this deep dive, we're going to give you like a step-by-step guide
Okay.
for how to use Haygen effectively.
Perfect.
So this is going to be like your shortcut to creating video content
I like it.
that looks professional
Yeah.
without having to really, understand all the ins and outs of video production.
It's kind of the promise of AI, right? To kind of democratize things that used to be, only for the specialists.
Exactly. And the nice thing is that Haygen has, they've thought about this.
Yeah.
And they've created resources for you to like learn along the way.
That's great.
So they have step-by-step instructions. They have a whole video course called Haygen Academy.
Oh, wow.
And they even have live online events.
Well, that's nice. They've really built out a lot of resources to support anyone who's interested in using the platform.
Yeah. So, you're not just kind of thrown in there.
Yeah.
You have lots of options.
Yeah, that's really
helpful. Get help along the way.
For sure.
So with all of that said, how does a busy professional start using Haygen?
So the first thing you would do is set up your account, and it's really very straightforward.
Okay.
And then one of the first things you want to think about is how you're going to be visually represented in your videos.
Okay.
And that's where avatars come in.
All right. So let's think about the different avatar options.
Sure. So you can actually just choose a public avatar
Okay.
from Haygen's library, and that's really the fastest way
Got it.
to get started if you need to make a video quickly.
Right.
But if you want to create a more personalized look, you can create a custom avatar.
Okay.
And there are 3 ways to do.
That's great. Let's walk through them.
So the first way is to use their hyper-realistic avatars feature,
Okay.
which uses a selfie video to create your likeness.
Okay.
Now, if you're going to do this, you really want to pay attention to their recording recommendations.
Right.
Things like good lighting, a non-distracting background.
Yeah.
And you want to try to, have natural and subtle movements to get the best result.
That makes sense. You want your digital version to be as professional as possible.
Exactly.
Right. So what are the other custom avatar options?
Well, the second option is called photo avatars.
Okay.
And for that, you upload still images to create your digital representation.
Okay.
So if you have some professional headshots, that's where you'd use them.
Right.
And then the third way
Yeah.
is to actually generate an avatar from text prompts.
Wow. So that gives you a lot of creative control.
Right. It really does. You can kind of experiment and come up with different looks.
Okay.
Now, Haygen also has some best practices for creating high-quality AI avatars, which are worth checking out.
Okay.
And then they also have this cool feature called Generate Looks,
Oh, I like that.
where you can actually change your avatar's clothing
That's neat.
and even the background
Wow.
with text props.
That's super cool. So you can really customize the look and feel of your video.
Yes, you can.
Okay. So it sounds like if you're really pressed for time, a public avatar is the way to go.
Exactly.
But if you want to build a really strong personal brand,
Right.
then spending a little more time creating a custom avatar is probably worth it.
It's definitely worth considering.
Okay. So now we have our avatar.
Okay.
What's next?
So the next step is really preparing your script.
Okay.
Because the script is the foundation of your video.
Absolutely. So how should a busy person approach script writing for video?
Well, the key is to be concise.
Okay.
A long rambling script is just not going to work.
Right.
If you're a busy person, you don't have time to write a novel.
Absolutely.
So try to aim for short videos, especially if you're doing updates or internal communications. Like 1 to 2 minutes with scripts that get straight to the point.
Right. Short and sweet is what we're aiming for.
Exactly.
What about if I'm, doing something a little more informal?
For those situations, you could just use bullet points.
Okay.
Or even just an outline. And that will let you kind of deliver the information in a more natural way without having to read a script word for word.
Got it.
And that can save you a lot of time in terms of preparation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now, if you do need to make longer videos, maybe you need to do a more in-depth explanation of something. One tip is to break the script down into stages.
Okay.
So you're not trying to write the whole thing all at once.
Right.
And that can make it feel a lot less overwhelming.
Good advice. What about repurposing content?
Oh, that's a fantastic way to save time.
I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah, you probably have a lot of content already. Presentation slides,
Yeah.
blog posts, meeting summaries.
Okay.
Even just key talking points from presentations.
Right.
You can often adapt those into video scripts
With
very little modification.
That's a good point.
It's like you've already done the hard work,
Right.
so why not just leverage it?
Absolutely. And there are also AI writing tools
That's right.
that can help you draft scripts.
Yes, they can. You can use them to take your existing materials or even just some key ideas and turn them into a first draft of a script.
Okay, so we have our avatar, we have our script.
All right.
How do we actually put it all together in Haygen?
So the Haygen video creation workflow
Yeah.
is really designed to be simple.
Okay.
And a good place to start is usually with a template.
Okay.
So Haygen has all these different templates that are tailored to different video objectives. Like if you're doing an explainer video or a product update, they've got a template for that.
Got it.
And choosing a template that aligns with your goal can really save you a lot of time on the design and layout.
So it's kind of like a starting point.
Exactly. It gives you a framework to work with.
Okay. And you said they have lots of different use cases, right?
They do.
Like marketing, sales, internal training, all sorts of stuff.
Yes. Anything you can think of, they probably have a template for it.
That's great. So once we've chosen our template, what happens next?
Well, then you input your script into Haygen.
Okay.
And one really cool feature is that you can actually use your script as a teleprompter.
Oh, that's helpful.
Right within the platform.
Okay.
So that can help you deliver a smoother and more natural presentation.
Very cool.
Then you'll choose a voice for the narration.
Okay.
And Haygen has a bunch of built-in voices, but you can also create custom voices.
Interesting.
And they even integrate with other voice platforms like 11 Labs and Play.
Wow.
So you have tons of choices.
And that's all within Haygen?
Yeah, it's all built in.
That's really convenient.
And then if you have really specific needs, Haygen also has API access.
Okay.
So you can do even more voice customization.
And there's like a whole nother level.
Yeah, for people who really want to get granular with it.
Okay.
So once you have your voice selected, obviously you're going to choose your avatar.
Right.
And then you kick off the video generation process.
Okay.
And this is where Haygen's AI really shines.
How so?
Well, it automatically syncs the voice you've chosen with your avatar's lip movements.
Wow.
So it looks like your avatar is actually speaking.
That's impressive.
It's pretty cool.
And then once the video is generated, can I make changes?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Haygen has some really user-friendly editing tools. So you can do things like trim the video or adjust the pacing.
Got it.
So you don't need to be a video editing expert to make some basic adjustments. And then you can also add things like text overlays, other visual elements, background music. They call those video assets.
Got it.
And you can add all of that within Haygen.
So it's kind of like a one-stop shop.
It really is.
Okay. And then once I'm happy with my video,
Yep.
what do I do?
You just export it
Okay.
and download it.
And then I can share it.
And then you can share it wherever you want.
Fantastic. So it sounds like a really streamlined process.
It is.
But are there any tips you can give us?
Oh, for sure.
To make sure that we're, really getting the most out of Haygen?
Absolutely.
And avoiding any pitfalls?
Yes, definitely. So first of all,
Yeah.
you really want to focus on having high quality audio. Even just using a good headset microphone can make a big difference.
Okay.
Compared to using the built-in microphone on your computer.
Right.
Because clear audio is really crucial for accurate lip syncing. And it just makes for a better viewing experience.
Right. It sounds more professional.
Exactly.
What about the recording environment?
Yeah, so if you're recording yourself for a custom avatar, you want to be in a quiet space with good even lighting and a clean background.
So those basic production principles still apply.
They do.
Even though we're using AI.
It's still important to have good source material.
What about when I'm actually recording myself for the custom avatar?
So when you're recording, just try to have natural and subtle movements.
Okay.
Don't make any really exaggerated gestures or move around too quickly.
Okay.
But because that can sometimes look a little unnatural on the AI avatar.
Okay, good to know. What about batch processing?
Oh, yeah. So if you know you're going to be creating a lot of videos that have a similar format, definitely check out Haygen's batch processing features.
Okay.
Because that can save you a ton of time.
So it's like I can create multiple videos at once.
Pretty much.
Oh, that would be amazing for like, social media posts or something.
Exactly.
Where I'm using the same format over and over again.
That's a great example.
Okay, what else?
Well, if you want to make sure your videos are on brand, you should spend some time creating custom styles or templates within Haygen. They even have this feature called a brand kit.
I like that.
Which helps you keep all your branding elements consistent.
That's smart.
Across all your video content.
Right. So it all looks cohesive.
Yeah, it looks professional.
Okay, so we've talked about batch processing and branding.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, staying organized is also super important.
Right.
Use folders or tags to organize your projects.
Okay.
So you can easily find what you're looking for.
That makes sense because if you start creating a lot of videos, things could get messy pretty quickly.
It can definitely get out of hand.
And what about delegation?
Well, delegation is your friend.
Right.
If you have a team,
yeah,
don't be afraid to delegate tasks.
No, what kind of tasks?
Well, you could delegate the initial script drafting or even just the basic setup of the video in Haygen. And if you need more complex editing, that goes beyond Haygen's built-in tools. You could even think about outsourcing that.
To a professional editor?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would free up your time.
Right. So basically use your resources, whether they're internal or external.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's also worth repeating. We talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
But repurposing existing content is a really great way to save time.
It really is. You've already created that content, so why not just repurpose it?
Exactly. And it's probably already on brand.
Probably.
It's good content, so it's going to work well in a video.
Makes sense.
Okay, so any other tips before we wrap up?
Let's just touch on some common issues that people run into.
Yeah.
Because if you know about them, you can avoid them.
Right.
So sometimes you might see lip sync problems.
Okay.
And that's usually because the audio is unclear, or maybe you were speaking at an inconsistent pace when you recorded yourself.
Yeah.
You might also see avatar movements that look a little unnatural.
Okay.
And that's usually because you were moving around too much when you were recording the avatar.
Got it.
And then sometimes you might have video quality problems.
Okay.
And that can be because you used a low resolution video or the lighting was bad when you recorded your avatar.
Okay. So basically, if you pay attention to those basics, you're going to avoid a lot of headaches.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, this has been really helpful.
Glad to hear it.
It sounds like Haygen is, a really powerful tool.
It is.
For busy people who need video content, but don't have the time or the expertise to do it the traditional way.
Yep.
It really is. And it's nice to know that it's, affordable.
Yeah, it's very cost effective.
And you can create professional looking videos.
Absolutely.
Without having to hire a whole team.
Exactly.
So it really does seem like a game changer.
I think so.
Well, I hope this deep dive has given everyone a good overview.
Me too.
Of Haygen and a clear roadmap for how to start using it.
For sure.
And I want to leave everyone with this thought.
Okay.
Think about how integrating even short, impactful videos into your communication strategy could change the way you communicate.
It really could.
You could reach more people.
Absolutely.
Your message could be more engaging.
For sure.
You could really stand out.
Definitely.
And all of that is possible.
Yeah.
Even if you have a super busy schedule.
That's the beauty of it.
Because Haygen makes it so easy.
Yeah, it really does.
So what's one piece of information that you could turn into a video today?
That's a great question for everyone to consider.
Yeah, so think about it.
And if you want to learn more about Haygen, we have a great resource called the Haygen Hub.
Okay.
Which has in-depth tutorials, information about advanced features.
Okay.
And you can even connect with other Haygen users.
All right, so there you have it.
Yeah.
Everything you need to know to get started with Haygen.
Get out there and start creating.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.